Released in 1987 by Square, Rad Racer is a game that holds a special place in the hearts of NES gamers as one of the earliest and most beloved racing titles for the console. Known for its fast-paced action, vibrant graphics, and memorable 3D mode, the game became a fan favorite for players looking to experience the thrill of racing in the comfort of their own home. Developed by Square, the same company that would later become famous for its Final Fantasy series, Rad Racer was a departure from the role-playing games that Square was known for creating. At the time, Square was experimenting with various genres to diversify its game library, and this game marked its entry into the racing genre. The game was developed under the title Highway Star in Japan and was released as Rad Racer in North America. Square was heavily inspired by arcade racing games like Sega's OutRun, which had achieved massive success in the mid-1880s. The development team wanted to create a similar high-speed experience for the home console market, and they chose the NES as their platform. One of the key challenges Square faced was translating the arcade feel of a racing game into a home console experience while working within the limitations of the NES's hardware. Despite the technical constraints, the developers managed to create a game that stood out for its graphics, sound, and gameplay. Rad Racer is notable for its use of scaling and perspective tricks, which gave the impression of depth and speed, making it one of the more visually impressive NES games of its time. Like many racing games of the era, Rad Racer doesn't feature an elaborate story. The game focuses entirely on the thrill of racing across various environments, from cities to deserts, during different times of day. The player takes control of a sports car and races against the clock to complete each stage before time runs out. While you race, you also need to avoid crashing into other cars or obstacles on the road. While the game doesn't have a narrative in the traditional sense, it does evoke a feeling of adventure and high-speed excitement, which was more than enough for players who simply wanted to feel the rush of speeding down the highway in a sleek sports car. At its core, Rad Racer is a timed checkpoint-based racing game. The gameplay is simple but engaging, with players needing to maintain high speeds, avoid traffic, and reach checkpoints before the timer runs out. If you fail to reach a checkpoint in time, the game ends, and you're forced to start over from the beginning. At the start of the game, players are given a choice between two vehicles: the iconic Ferrari 328, referred to simply as a red sports car in the game, and the Formula One race car. Each vehicle has its own feel and speed, allowing players to choose the one that best suits their racing style. The Ferrari is often chosen for its sleek design, while the Formula One car is for those looking for raw speed. Rad Racer features 8 distinct stages, each with its own unique environment and challenge. The stages take you through a variety of settings, from urban highways to coastal roads and mountain ranges. These environments are beautifully rendered in 8-bit, with vibrant backgrounds and detailed road designs. Some stages are set during different times of the day or night, adding visual variety to the racing experience. For example, the Sunset Coastline features a gorgeous orange and purple sunset in the background, while the Snow White Line takes place in a frosty winter environment. The gameplay of Rad Racer is focused on maintaining high speeds while carefully maneuvering around traffic and obstacles. The faster you go, the quicker you reach checkpoints, but the more difficult it becomes to avoid other cars. The sense of speed in Rad Racer is heightened by the impressive use of scaling and perspective, which gives players a real sense of momentum as they zoom down the road. One of the most unique features of this game was its 3D mode, which was a big selling point when the game was released. Players could press the select button to toggle the 3D effect, and they were even given a pair of 3D glasses with the game to enhance the experience. While the 3D effect was simple by modern standards, it was a novel addition at the time and helped Rad Racer stand out from other NES racing games. The soundtrack is another highlight, with energetic tunes that fit the fast-paced action of the game. The player could even select which music track they wanted to listen to during races, adding a layer of customization to the experience. The music was composed by Nobuo Uematsu, who would later gain fame for his work on the Final Fantasy series. The sound effects, such as the roar of the engine and the screeching of tires, add to the immersive experience of racing at high speeds. The game's core challenge lies in the time management system. Players must hit checkpoints to extend their time and continue racing. The game's difficulty ramps up as the stages progress, with tighter turns, more traffic, and more challenging road conditions. If the player crashes or slows down too much, they risk running out of time before reaching the next checkpoint, adding a layer of tension to every race. The inclusion of a 3D mode was an early experiment by Square to see if 3D effects could enhance the gameplay experience. The game came packaged with red and blue anaglyph 3D glasses, which allowed players to experience the racing action in 3D. While the 3D effect didn't work perfectly for everyone, it was an innovative feature for its time, and it set this game apart from other racing games on the NES. While Rad Racer is primarily a racing game, its simple yet engaging gameplay appealed to a wide audience. Even players who weren't typically fans of racing games found themselves drawn to the game because of its fast-paced action and arcade-like feel. The game was easy to pick up and play, but challenging enough to keep players coming back for more. The music was composed by Nobuo Uematsu, who would go on to become one of the most famous video game composers in history for his work on the Final Fantasy series. The catchy and energetic soundtrack showcases Uematsu's ability to create memorable tunes, even in his early career. While Rad Racer doesn't have a traditional story or narrative ending, players who manage to complete all 8 stages are rewarded with a short, congratulatory message. This was fairly typical for arcade-style games at the time, where the satisfaction of beating the game came more from mastering its mechanics and challenges than from reaching a dramatic conclusion. Rad Racer is often compared to Sega's OutRun, which was released a year earlier and was one of the most popular arcade racing games of the 1980s. Both games featured checkpoint-based gameplay and fast, arcade-style racing action. But Rad Racer distinguished itself with its unique visual style, the inclusion of a 3D mode, and the fact that it was available for a home console like the NES. Due to the success of Rad Racer, Square released a sequel, Rad Racer 2, in 1990. While the sequel improved on some of the graphics and gameplay mechanics, it didn't achieve the same level of popularity as the original game. However, both games are fondly remembered by NES fans and remain important parts of the NES library. The game was heavily promoted by Nintendo Power, the iconic gaming magazine of the time. The game was featured in multiple issues, complete with tips, strategies, and maps to help players navigate through its challenging stages. This helped boost its popularity among the NES audience. Rad Racer for the NES is a classic example of how a simple concept, when executed well, can lead to a memorable and impactful game. With its high-speed racing action, beautiful 8-bit graphics, and innovative 3D mode, this game stands as one of the best racing titles on the NES. Its legacy is a testament to Square's versatility as a developer and its willingness to experiment with new ideas and genres. For fans of retro gaming and racing enthusiasts alike, Rad Racer remains a must-play experience. Whether you're zooming down coastal highways or dodging traffic in the mountains, the thrill of racing still holds up as an exciting and nostalgic journey back to the golden age of 8-bit gaming.